Have you been hearing a lot of chatter about the almighty AI ChatGPT coming to steal your Salesforce jobs? Well, me being who I am, I definitely had to check this out. So what ChatGPT is an AI chatbot that you ask it questions and it will spit back out answers for you. Sounds simple enough, sounds like Google, but what the really cool thing is that it's conversational and it remembers some of the context of what you're talking about. So already pretty cool there. And then on top of that, it can write code. In this video, I'm going to check out what ChatGPT can do in the Salesforce context and beyond. I also brought a special guest who's never used ChatGPT before to be a sounding board, another person to pitch ideas. Should be fun. Let's get to it. All right, carrying on. Let's talk about writing some triggers, right? So in here, we've got a trigger that updates all the phone numbers on all the child accounts to the phone number when the phone number from the parent the parent account. So when the phone number changes on the account, all the children's phone numbers, they change. So kind of a weird thing.
These are some questions I wrote at this point to really push it, because I'm going to start stretching it to see how hard it can fulfill basically ridiculous business requirements that you run into sometimes for processes that don't work very well.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is something you might actually write. Like somebody might need something. It might not be the phone number field, but we're going to give it a default database field that it for sure knows exists.
Yeah. Oh, timeout. All right.
Broke it already?
Yeah, right. So the other thing that may help is to write Salesforce a bunch of times.
Write a Salesforce trigger on an account that updates the phone on all child contacts to the account phone when account phone changes.
Yeah. The other thing you got to remember too is this is one, it's a free service as of right now. There may be tons of other people making requests at the same time, and I think at a certain point they do rate limit you a little bit if you're asking too much. So we might have to pause for a minute, or
you might have to be right back after these messages from our sponsor.
Yeah.
Has someone ever refreshed a sandbox before you were ready? Has someone ever handed you a Salesforce org without documentation? Hi, I'm Tommy, America's only lawyer for serious Salesforce injuries.
Oh, we got something. I just needed to refresh. I'm digging the trigger name after update. Okay. I like how the formatting is changing as it's, updating the code, right? we got an error right here.
Whoa.
Trigger.new looks good.
Adding a note. All right, let's walk through this one because there's a lot we can say about this, I think. Okay, so does it do it? Trigger update contact phone on account after update. That's right. Get a list of all child contacts. Okay, yeah, you could do that.
What?
So you make sure you...
Why can't I remember? So in the where clause for this, where account ID in trigger.new, maybe I haven't written a trigger in a while, but is it supposed to be trigger.new map key set, or does the trigger new work? Okay,
that actually works, I believe.
All right.
And if not, it's not a hard step. If you run this and it doesn't work, but I'm pretty sure that Salesforce is smart and it'll work.
Nice job, Salesforce.
Or Apex is smart.
I'm digging the comments. That's another thing I'll point out. Sorry.
Yeah. Again, the comments are pretty neat. So if you're learning how to do this, you can see what each piece does. And then for context C and contacts trigger it knows that it has new map in this context, and it calls get on new map, and it gets the context account ID, and it gets the phone number. Update context. Yeah, I mean, this does it, right? This technically does it. It is aware that it has trigger.new and trigger.new map. Would you put this into your
I definitely would not put this into my production org. So maybe I'll just leave that disclaimer for anybody that needs it. I would recommend that you do not put any of this stuff in your production org. Yeah, you can use it as potentially an outline or just to test some stuff. But yeah, we need a trigger framework. We potentially need just one object per trigger and how you're going to put everything together. So there's a couple more things, at least on triggers and just in general, that goes into all of this.
It's aware that it produces bad code though. At this point, I haven't seen, when I saw this on a trigger example on LinkedIn, the only thing I've seen come out of ChatGPT, it did not have a little note on it that was like, this is a simple example and it may not follow best practices. So
Yeah.
that's good, but it's not enough in my opinion, because it's just like there's just like, this is the code golf way to do it.
Mm-hmm. There's nuance, especially for your particular org and all of that stuff. If it was trained on your org and more enterprise code, then
That would
maybe.
be crazy.
But they would need to get access to all of that. So that's number one. But as like a baseline, trying to understand stuff, sure.
Yeah.
This is pretty solid.
Let's add it into what I'm going to have a stretch goal for each of these questions I've written. The stretch goal for this one is to see if it can maneuver around recursion. So something ridiculous that often happens with automation requests is you have a parent object updating a field and that gets copied into the child. And then you also might have a field on the child objects that need to go and update something in the parent. So I'm going to see if it can this be made recursive by updating the, you can just paste in the,
So
pre-written.
we've got,
because we're already making it hard enough. This is going to be very hard.
So
I think.
write the first question. And
I just want to see if it figures out that it's recursive.
All right, here we go. We're sending it. It's gonna time out again. It was already struggling on the first one. It's gonna be like, nope.
Oh, is it gonna do it?
Oh, it's spitting something out.
Okay, it's doing this one.
We got this. We know this. It didn't pull in the parent ID, but I think that is that fine for now?
Ooh, that is interesting.
Oh?
It missed that.
Oh, it's doing another one. I think it separated them out with the and.
It's not going to account for recursion.
It's
these will fire each other forever.
All right, so we may have been bullying this a little too much.
I pushed it too hard.
We may have to do a part 2 to expand on some of these a little bit more, but I guess just to round this out, can you write a test? I like how I'm calling it you. Can you write a test class for these triggers? I want to see both of them.
Yeah.
Plural. So it's got to know that it's a Salesforce test class. That's number one.
While it's writing this, if you go through and you use this to learn like individually, like how a piece of code might do a very specific thing, I think it can do that based on what it's done up there. But it's not. I don't think it can do architecture. It cannot do automation architecture.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go though. Here's the test classes. Let's see what these look like.
I'm digging it. It's creating objects for me. I want to add something onto it already.
Yep. Oh my God. Now you're asking it to do architecture. That's still better than a lot of humans.
It's testing both of them. And actually the trigger should test properly, right? Because it's on update of the... Wait till I see it in there. So it's still going through. And
is it getting 100% coverage on this?
My gosh, hold on. I've got so many questions right now with this testing.
That's still pretty good.
I'm just going to dump in my code and just be like, write a test class, please.
Like maybe if you're in a time crunch.
Look at this. It knows that as long as we're doing... Okay, sorry. There's a couple things I've caught already. But it knows that all we need to do is the update on the phone number. And then it's going to... The trigger is going to go off, right? Because our triggers are on account originally. So it's not like calling any sorts of methods, right? It's just doing the update, and that's going to fire. And then it's doing the check to see, which is...
It requeries it.
That's wild. That's wild.
I mean, that gets you... I mean, you could improve the architecture on this, and you could improve the variable names. You could add, I always like to do a test setup, right?
Yeah. So I was gonna mention, like, what are the things that are missing, right? There's no test setup. There's no test start or stop. on this.
No test start and stop. So you could theoretically, if you have other automation in your org, go out of bounds.
Right.
Your limits querying before and after is just not
right.
precise.
So I would love to beat this up some more, but I know we have some other questions that we want to run through.
Yeah, I mean, this is the test class looks nice, I guess.
Solid.
My issue is always like stylistically. If I pick this code up, I don't want to look at a method that's called test account update phone.
Test setup. What do you want it called? Let's see if we.
I want it to be called should update something like should underscore update.
Write it out. Parent. Write out what you want them, because I feel like if we tell it, like, I want to see if it's smart enough to tell it the method name of the test classes. And
what do you mean?
So like if we give it a format, right? So like change the method name to whatever your format is, right? That you prefer.
I just sent you what I would name that method. Because when I'm reviewing my tests running in an IDE or in a test suite, I want to scroll through and see which test cases are not working in a very descriptive way. All right. That's my opinion.
Let's hold this one. We'll save it for round 2.
Well, holy crap! What is it doing?
It is going off. It's something's happening. So
scroll back up. Oh, it added the test setup, but it didn't annotate it.
It did not annotate it. So that was a couple things I want to. Yeah, it's pretty much useless.
Wait. Is it useless? Does it call it at the very beginning of the methods?
No.
No, it doesn't.
I don't.
It's useless.
It's assuming that it's called though. So it's
it is.
It's changing
made a mistake.
Yeah, it made a mistake. It should have the @ symbol and test setup annotation.
But if it did, that would mean. Oh wait, no. Test account.phone.
So
it wouldn't have. You'd have to re-query.
Yeah, I'd have to query it too. So yeah, so it doesn't know that. It's somehow thinking that it knows it. It did try.
It tried.
And literally just add test setup.
No, I mean we didn't give it very good instructions.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you gave it very detailed instructions, like that's what I mean. A lot of the questions I wrote are very detailed because they're like what you'd pull off of a pre-groomed user story,
right?
From like a lead developer. Like those are some of the questions I wrote out. But honestly, still interesting. It's just like this is not.
It's not finished, right? Once again, you can't put this in your production or this. This will save. Yeah, it will save. It won't work. It won't work. Actually, this won't. It won't save. It won't save. It won't have.
No, it'll be like null pointer.
Well, hold on. It has the reference of test account at the top.
Oh shoot! Wait. That does that. If it were to have run test setup. Wait.
Does the test setup annotation?
Is there a constructor on this?
No.
It's close, dude. You could
very
do
close.
Something
This
like
this would compile. This would save. I don't know if it would work. I don't know if it would work without running the methods. Without running the methods. Very, very interesting. Very interesting.
For only typing add test setup.
Yeah. All right. Let's
move on to something else because they're cherry picking for the ones that I've seen that say like, "Oh, it's so good." And
yeah.
Picking.
Write a trigger.
We got lucky.
Yeah. So in this, we're just beating it up some more, right? Write a trigger framework that allows the user to skip. And when the test context can prevent recursion. So we're assuming like we added on it past the recursion question from before. And then now, we want to add a trigger framework on it so it knows like maybe maximum depths or stuff like that. Let's see, because there were a ton of trigger frameworks out
before 2021. Yeah, there's at least 5.
Yeah, there's ton of like very well-known trigger frameworks for Salesforce.
There you go.
What's going on? Okay, I've seen this before. I've literally copied and pasted this.
Hey, it's got skipped users. I've actually seen that. Processing records. not seen that very often.
Register.
Whoa,
Oh.
map of handlers?
Well,
Hold on, this is going hard.
this
Hold
is
on. Register a handler? Oh my god, no way. This is not okay. We'll let it finish, but
not a very simple.
no.
This is more than we were expecting, right? This is
More than I was expecting, but okay, run has a. So here's another thing. It's I don't think it's implemented abstractly or as an interface.
yeah. That I was gonna call that out too. It's like this only.
I feel like there's like programming fundamentals. It should be able to do that, but maybe it got confused somewhere.
Maybe.
Oh, it's still going though.
Change
Dude.
to
I've seen this before.
interface.
This
Yeah,
similar code.
I've seen this pattern, but and it's probably like the number one Googled result, right? When you type in
Maybe.
Salesforce trigger frameworks. I love all the comments though. Oh, oh.
And then it did it. It's just like Curtis talking about it. He's like, "Hey, I heard you were talking some nonsense down about me." Okay, so this actually does work. Let's talk about this. If you roll it up. So what it is the way you would use this framework is very confusing, I would say. And this is not something I would put in a production org unless it was very big enterprise. But you would call your class trigger framework, right? And what you do with this one is you would then call register handler, and then you would register it for you would type in account, and then you would pass it a trigger handler. That works. And then if you scroll down to the interface it built, that is what you're gonna pass it actually.
Well, you would just you would call run with the with. I mean, it's kind of there. Does it call run already? No. So you would register your handler for the trigger handler.
Yeah.
Object or class that you instantiate, and then you would call run on top of it, based on and pass it in the values, the trigger.new and trigger.old list for it, and then everything else will just kind of work. It does loop over the values here, and I guess everything inside.
Run. Can we look at the run method again? What does run do? This is all run. Okay, so what is it like?
So you have another class instantiate or implement the interface.
Yep.
Then you, from that class, whenever your trigger runs, you create that one.
Okay. I
call
see what it's
run.
doing here.
Add in your value, add in your new and your old values, and then all of this processing happens. So you'll only have one trigger correctly. You'll only have one trigger for all your objects, and you'll just call run on it. And then
this is okay. It's just very confusing, I feel like. But it does do what I wanted it to do. It lets you control all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It lets you avoid recursion. And it runs the same recursion and stuff for every single object with the same kind of commands. The thing I think that makes it, like, sometimes stupid code is better because
it's easier to understand. Yeah.
Let's face it. Like, if you drop someone brand new into your org or into your code base and you show them this, let's face it, a middle level or junior developer or whatever is going to be easily overwhelmed by this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not easy to grasp, I suppose. Like, it took me a second to grasp it, right?
You would need to basically just give them examples or an outline of how it's actually working. You can't just jump into this and read this and be like, oh, okay, I got it. Because it's
most people.
Yeah, it's still a little confusing.
But it does it. It's not a framework that I would write though, because I think that there's too much value in making code a little bit stupid so that it's like human readable, even if this is like profoundly OOP. Mm-hmm. I'm very impressed with this from the ChatGPT though, because I even if there's a verbatim this piece of code somewhere on the internet, I don't know if there is. Like, we could copy this code block and throw it in Google. Oh, you're gonna tell it to add it to the trigger framework?
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Add this to my trigger framework. How would I add this to my trigger framework? I don't know.
Oh my god, that's like a perfect question, right? Because somebody's like, oh, I gotta write a trigger, right? So it's like, well, we already have an existing framework, so how do we add it together? So okay, here we go. How would we add the phone? Is it using the what's the name of that class? Trigger handler interface.
Oh my god, if it can do this, dude. I mean, yeah, you got to jump through a lot of hoops to coach it there, but I mean, that means that it can get to this point someday. Oh no.
It responded pretty quickly.
It's gonna do it. It's gonna do it, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Do it. It's doing it. Oh no.
Well,
Wait, no, it's not. Trigger framework register handler, yeah. So it defines the class. It defines the method run as a public void method that you will need to implement in your interface. So down here, it should be saying it needs to do public class my contact trigger implements trigger handler, and then it needs to implement the run method on that class. But I think the interface can't be an inner class either. I think it needs to be a top level class, be an interface in Apex, but I'm not positive on that in Apex because I've never done an inner class. It's an interface. So I don't think this fully works, actually.
I'm gonna have to double check all my OOP stuff now.
You
I'm just
literally can't do this. It does not work.
Okay.
Look at that. Look at new trigger handler.
Well, I think it's just assuming that this is inside of a trigger, right? So assume that this is inside of a trigger on contact, and it's just called contact trigger or something like that.
I don't think you can just define a method in the middle of a method.
You know what? You're right about that one.
Look at that. That definitely does not go. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm definitely pretty sure. I definitely does not go, dude.
I think you're right about that one. And it also doesn't define like the context of the run as well. So like if it's before or after, or does that matter?
No, you would implement that in your implementation of the run method. When you implement run for your interface, you would define for that handler the run method.
I like it. It's goofy.
It's too goofy. It can't add the method. If it did, whatever.
Very interesting stuff with this trigger and ChatGPT. It didn't do so well in terms of actually being able to create it and making it work. So if you haven't guessed, we brought this into our playground orgs, and yeah, it did not compile after we thought about this hard enough. So yeah, it didn't work, but with some tweaking, with some additional data, it could potentially be very useful for developers in being able to build some scaffolds or some templates for things that they want to get done. Overall, really exciting for a free tool, and we've got lots more questions that we can ask it. So if you have some questions that you would like us to break down for ChatGPT, leave a comment down below and we will make a video on it. Check out this video that we did on ChatGPT errors, or one of the upcoming ones that we asked it to write an integration. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, I believe in you.